Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into one of the most talked about turning points in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. A moment that has drawn the attention of leaders, analysts, and ordinary citizens across the world. Reports have spread rapidly about a serious blow to Russian military operations and about the president this situation is putting on, President Vladimir Putin and his inner circle. In this video, we'll unpack what that means, how it happened, and what consequences could follow for both nations and the global community. Over the last several months, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine has evolved from a grinding standoff into a contest of adaptation and resilience. Both sides have adjusted their tactics, restructured their supply chains, and experimented with new technology to gain even a small advantage. The most recent incident, widely described as the loss of a strategic Russian installation, has changed the tone of the discussion inside Moscow. The story is not only about weapons and territory, but also about perception, morale, and leadership under fire. Inside Russia, public reaction has been mixed and uncertain. On one hand, state media continues to project confidence are under control, emphasizing that operations are under control. On the other hand, social media channels and independent commentators have voiced concerns about logistical weaknesses, miscommunication, and slow decision-making within the Russian defense establishment. The combination of official silence and online speculation has created an atmosphere of anxiety that even government supporters can feel. For Putin, this is a test not only of power but also of narrative control. In Ukraine, morale has risen after months of intense struggle. Soldiers on the ground feel that their perseverance is paying off, and citizens far from the front lines express cautious optimism. The event has become a symbol of persistence against overwhelming odds. Yet Ukrainian officials are careful to frame the situation as part of a long campaign, not a decisive victory. They know that momentum can shift quickly and that maintaining unity is as important as any tactical success. International observers are watching every move. Western analysts interpret the recent development as evidence that Russian infrastructure is vulnerable. Some policy experts suggest that this could accelerate internal debate inside Russia about the cost of the conflict. Meanwhile, other countries have urged restraint, reminding both sides of the human toll and the risk of escalation. The tension in diplomatic circles is almost as high as it is on the battlefield itself. For Putin personally, the moment represents a challenge to his long-standing image of control. For more than 2 decades, he has projected strength, predictability, and strategic patience. Now, even loyal commentators are asking whether the leadership structure surrounding him can absorb unexpected losses and still maintain discipline. Behind closed doors, advisors are said to be evaluating new approaches, from changes in command to potential political adjustments aimed at calming domestic opinion. Inside Ukraine, strategists believe that precision and timing are key. Their focus has shifted toward disrupting supply routes and command systems, rather than simply holding ground. By keeping pressure on key points, they hope to stretch Russian logistics and expose weak communication lines. Every successful strike, real or perceived, feeds into a broader psychological strategy meant to convince Russian inner planners that a cost of continuing the war outsages war weighs any potential gain. The global economy is also entangled in this conflict. Energy markets react instantly to any sign of escalation, and investors weigh the risk of prolonged instability. European countries are re-evaluating their energy strategies, diversifying supplies, and investing more heavily in defense industries. The shockwaves reach beyond the immediate conflict zone, influencing inflation, trade, and security policy worldwide. Public sentiment has become a major factor. In Russia, families of soldiers seek clarity and assurance. In Ukraine, communities rally to support the troops and rebuild damaged areas. Across Europe, protests and political debates reveal how deeply this war has touched everyday life. The event that sparked today's discussion, whatever its exact technical details, has therefore become more than a military incident. It is a mirror reflecting the political, social, and moral strains of our time. As we continue our analysis, it's important to remember that information warfare runs parallel to physical warfare. Each side releases statements, images, and numbers meant to shape perception. Separating fact from propaganda has become increasingly difficult. Analysts spend countless hours verifying satellite data, comparing eyewitness accounts, and cross-checking official claims. The digital battlefield can change public opinion almost as quickly as drones change positions above the real one. For Putin, navigating this information storm is as difficult as commanding troops. The leader who built his reputation on discipline must now contend with spontaneous online reactions, leaks, and global commentary that he cannot fully control. His options narrow as domestic expectations collide with strategic limits. Every appearance on television, every speech, becomes a calculated move to restore confidence. But audiences are more skeptical now, and even small inconsistencies draw global scrutiny. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials leverage social media to showcase determination and transparency. Short videos of reconstruction, humanitarian support, and resilience flood the internet. The narrative emphasizes not just military success but also national endurance. It is a calculated strategy to maintain foreign support and morale while reminding the world that Ukraine's fight is both defensive and moral. The coming months will reveal whether this shift in perception translates into lasting change on the ground. Russian planners may attempt to reassert control through intensified operations or symbolic shows of strength. Ukrainian forces, in turn, will seek to exploit the psychological advantage by keeping pressure on supply routes and leadership networks. The interplay between offense and defense, confidence and fear, is likely to define the next stage of the war. Observers have begun to speculate about long-term consequences. Could this mark the beginning of a broader retreat, or will it simply trigger a new round of mobilization inside Russia? Will external partners adjust their involvement? These questions dominate policy circles, and no one has definitive answers. What is clear is that both sides face exhaustion, and the international community faces growing urgency to mediate or at least contain the fallout. For many citizens watching from afar, the story has personal meaning. It reminds them how fragile stability can be and how quickly geopolitical ambitions can disrupt ordinary lives. The footage of destroyed infrastructure and displaced families underscores that behind every strategic headline lies human suffering. The shock, the uncertainty, and the search for hope connect people across borders more than any propaganda can divide them. Putin's next moves will likely define his legacy. Will he double down, seeking to prove that Russia remains unshaken, or will he quietly shift strategy to de-escalate? History shows that leaders under pressure often walk a narrow path between pride and pragmatism. His advisors must weigh military needs against economic realities and social patience. The world is watching every gesture for hints of direction. Ukraine's leadership faces its own test. Success brings attention, and attention brings expectation. Managing victory responsibly is as difficult as achieving it. The government must balance celebration with caution, ensuring that overconfidence does not erode discipline. Every speech to the nation must inspire without overstating the situation, keeping focus on on the long road ahead rather than a single event. The information surrounding this incident also highlights the role of modern technology. Satellite networks, cyber operations, and instant communication make secrecy almost impossible. Every development is analyzed, exaggerated, or questioned in real time. Governments that once relied on controlled messaging now face a world where millions of independent observers shape the story. In such an environment, credibility becomes a weapon as powerful as any missile. International diplomacy has shifted accordingly. The United Nations, European Union, and regional alliances issue statements calling for restraint, while preparing for potential crises in energy and security. Behind the scenes, negotiators test back channels, exploring ways to cool tensions without appearing weak. Each nation calculates how involvement might affect its own interests. The struggle for balance is constant and fragile. Economists warn that the longer the conflict endures, the heavier the burden will be on global supply chains. Agriculture, energy, and transport all depend on regional stability. What happens in Eastern Europe influences food prices in Africa and fuel costs in Asia. The interconnectedness of the world means that no country remains untouched. The destruction of one installation or the panic of one leader can ripple through distant markets in hours. Psychologically, the concept of panic in leadership reveals how wars are fought not only with weapons but with perception. When a nation's leader appears unsettled, it can embolden adversaries and worry allies. Managing that image is therefore crucial. Whether Putin actually feels panic is less important than whether people believe he does. Perception can become reality in political psychology. Inside Russia, think tanks and retired officials quietly debate what reforms might strengthen future operations. Some argue for modernization, others for negotiation. None can ignore the growing sense that the old models of control are straining. The younger generation, exposed to global media, questions official narratives more openly than before. This cultural shift could shape Russia's direction. Long after the guns fall silent, Ukraine's social transformation continues as well. Years of resistance have forged a stronger sense of identity and purpose. Civilians volunteer, engineers design protective systems, and educators teach through blackouts. The hardship, while severe, has deepened national unity. For many Ukrainians, the recent success symbolizes not vengeance but survival, a statement that they will not vanish quietly from the map of Europe. As this story develops, independent journalists attempt to document both sides with accuracy. Their task is dangerous and often thankless, but it ensures that the world receives at least fragments of truth amid competing claims. Footage of damaged buildings, testimonies of civilians, and interviews with analysts help audiences understand the cost of each headline. The more information circulates, the harder it becomes for any government to hide behind slogans. When we look at history, conflicts like this rarely end through total victory. They end when fatigue outweighs ambition. Economies falter, soldiers tire, and citizens demand normalcy. The moment described as the destruction of a key installation might someday be remembered as a turning point, not because of the damage itself, but because it forced both sides to reconsider the path forward. In conclusion, the phrase "Putin in panic" captures more than gossip. It symbolizes a global realization that power is never absolute. Even the most established systems can tremble when confronted by persistence, technology, and public scrutiny. Ukraine's endurance and Russia's reaction illustrate how modern warfare extends beyond borders and ideologies into the shared human struggle for stability and meaning. As we continue to follow developments, one message stands out: the importance of dialogue, accountability, and resilience. The world watches, hoping that lessons learned from this chapter might someday prevent the next. Thank you for watching and staying informed. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more balanced updates and thoughtful analysis and global events. Until next time, stay aware and stay safe.